Hey, this is Ralph, and in this video I'm still tinkering with this amortization schedule for a car loan. And I will have a link to where you can grab this spreadsheet down in the description, but obviously I'd be tickled pink if you followed along and created this spreadsheet for yourself, because it's going to be great Excel practice, and these are going to be really good practicing of if functions. We're in pretty good shape. We've got a number of if functions here, which will zero out our balances basically once we get to less than or equal to 0. But you can see I've got this situation where I'm actually making too much extra payment. So at some point, I'm paying a little bit too much. Now, we can see that my calculated payment and my extra payment together are $851, and my ending balance is only $842. That means I don't have to make a full extra payment. I'm going to work on this one cell, and then can autofill it down, autofill it up, so that way everything is accurate no matter what we change it to. So I'm going to take my extra payment cell here, and I like that if function, but it's not quite what I want. So I'm going to alter it. Equals if my previous ending balance is less than the sum of the previous calculated payment plus the previous extra payment. Well, if that's true, comma, then I'm going to be paying less. I'll just put that in there as filler text, placeholder text, comma. Otherwise, then I'm just going to make my normal extra payment. I'll just click on the cell right above, closing parentheses, press enter. Don't worry about those value errors. We can tell in this situation we have to pay less. So now we just have to figure out, well, what do we need to pay? Let's edit this some more. Instead of the words pay less, I'm going to pay the previous ending balance minus previous calculated payment. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so I'm definitely making a reduced extra payment, but you notice I still have a balance of $344. Lo and behold, that is the exact amount of interest for that current month. Still have to pay that interest charge. So let's tweak this formula. It's not just ending balance minus the calculated payment. We also need to add in plus the interest charge for that month. There we go. Now I'm going to autofill this down and let's see what we get. Okay. So at some point my spreadsheet gets a little bit confused because I'm calculating based on things being less than or equal to 0, and it still wants to make this big extra payment, but it's negative. That's an easy fix to make though. I can go back to my original cell that I was working on here. And I like this formula, this is good, but I never want it to be a negative. So what I'm going to do right in front of this portion of the formula is I'm going to include a max function, max, opening parentheses, 0, comma, and then right after that little plus F31, closing parentheses for the max. The max is going to be the higher of two values. So either I'm going to display a 0 or I'm going to display my calculated extra payment. Now when I autofill this down to the remaining, there we go. Those are going to zero out, and then I can take this one that I worked on, autofill it not all the way to the top, but to my second payment row, and there we go. So now I've got that reduced extra payment. So let's see what happens. I'm going to take my extra payment, instead of $400 a month extra, I'm going to change it out to $321 extra per month, and we'll see. Actually this is a good situation. I was going to do this next because issue can occur when my ending balance gets less than the calculated payment. That was just a fluke that worked out there. Let me change this out to 380. I just want to see if I can duplicate. Okay, here we go. So here's a situation where clearly my $380 a month extra payment is a little bit too much. So in that next month I get to $181. Now I want to demonstrate this next phase where I wasn't sure what combination of extra payments I need, but there's definitely going to be a situation if my ending balance happens to be less than the calculated payment. So we can produce that pretty easily. I'll just put in $400 for an ending balance. So if $400 is an ending balance, well then I get to a situation where I need to be making less calculated payment. I'm going to modify this calculated payment so that it's less than normal. If my ending balance is less than my calculated payment, comma, well then what am I going to pay? Well, I'm going to pay the ending balance plus the interest charges for that month, comma. Otherwise, I'll just make the normal calculated payment. And I guess I will scroll up and I'll click there, F4, to make that my original calculated payment value. So in this example, we can see, all right, clearly my extra payment can be less. And let's see, I will autofill this new calculated payment down. Don't worry about that quite yet. And I'm going to click on this calculated payment and move it all the way back up to the second payment row. Now don't forget I messed around and I typed in a manual value there, so I'll just click one of my other ending balances that was accurate and I'll autofill that down. Now this messiness isn't going to be too tough to solve either. So I'm going to head up to my first calculated payment that is a little bit wonky, and you can see it's basically wanting to make that full extra payment. So I'm going to put an if function within an if function, a nested if. So instead of just being that calculated payment of B7, I'm going to change that out to if my previous ending balance is equal to 0, well then my calculated payment's going to be 0, comma. Otherwise, it's going to be my original calculated payment right there, F4, so that's B7 for me, and then a closing parentheses for that if function. So this is tricky to look at, I know, but basically if my previous ending balance is less than my calculated payment, well then I have to calculate what that new reduced calculated payment is going to be, and that's going to be the previous ending balance plus any interest charges for that current month. However, if that previous ending balance is 0, that must mean it's been zeroed out in a previous month. Well, then my calculated payment is 0. Otherwise, it's going to be the normal calculated payment. All right, so let's press enter there. And I'm going to take this newly modified if function with a nested if, autofill that down. That's looking pretty good there. I'm going to take this, is it that one? Yep, that looks like that one, and then I can grab it and autofill it up to the top, to the second from the top. Okay, that all looks pretty good there. Things are seeming pretty nice. Now let's try a different extra payment. 321, wasn't that one that was a little bit weird? So 321 payment, cool, things are looking pretty good there. 213.03 plus a little bit of extra interest charges, so I pay 213.90. And yeah, everything pays out. Very, very nice. One last thing we're going to do. I'm going to grab all of this data as part of my amortization table. I'm going to head over home ribbon, conditional formatting. Let's see. Let's highlight sales rules. Equal to. For any cells that are equal to 0, let's do a custom format, so that the font color is white, since I have a white background. Yeah, that should be fine. And then click OK, and then click OK. So now things will look like they're getting zeroed out at that very end month. And we'll do another little experiment. What if my extra payment was 265? Bring that down. Excellent. Everything zeroes out after that 37th month, that 37th row. Thanks for hanging out with me. I know this is tricky, but yeah, it's you'll probably never get a better if function practice scenario. So take care.